So when Ralf Rangnick came in, he had this kind of impossible job to get the best out of these players, and most had switched off under Solskjaer, and I think that had happened. It wasn't possible for Rangnick to switch them back on again.
I don't think it was the best start. I don't think it was the right call, the right choice, and I think the players felt it very, very quickly.
Do you think Paul's mind was made up that it's time for him to go?
I don't think so. I think there was a time where he saw himself potentially extending the contract. He really did. I think he was very open about anything, about leaving, about staying, about what the club could offer him. That was before his house got burglared with his children in it, for example, which didn't help really, in the sense that, okay, we don't feel safe here. Maybe it's actually the right time to go. The fact that United offered something that him and Mino didn't feel was kind of...
Was an insult.
Right, not an insult, but I think they maybe expected a bit more.
Yeah.
Which again, after what he did for 6 years, is a bit debatable. If really he was due a pay rise, for example, and due another long-term contract. I don't know, but certainly I think he had an open mind at some point, and quite quickly I think went to like, okay, this is for me. I need another chapter now. I'm going to be 30 in 2023. I want to go to do something else and go somewhere else.
I think it's also the vibe. There is again, there's another parallel universe where Rangnick comes in and the team responds to him straight away, and they finish top 4 and go on a run and win do something important. And Sancho contributes, and Rashford's back in the fold, and Greenwood doesn't disappear, and he's got this young talent around him. And
that's a fantasy universe, not a parallel universe.
Let me put it this way: when Rangnick came in, even though it was only for 6 months, United had a very clear best case scenario. You don't bring Rangnick. You bring Rangnick in for 6 months because you think you can introduce you can change things culturally at the club while getting results, and thereby laying the foundation for the next manager. Who, by the way, Erik ten Hag not entirely dissimilar to Rangnick in terms of his vision of football, right? Mm-hmm. And when that didn't happen, Pogba might well say, "Well, what am I going to do? What am I doing here? Where do I fit in?" And I think that accelerated it.
Before I would have loved to see him with Ten Hag. I have to say, maybe Ten Hag didn't want him, but I think the fit would have been great, and I think Ten Hag could have got a really, really good Paul Pogba.
I think if United had made a better decision back in December when Solskjaer went and they brought in Rangnick, that might have kept him, because I think maybe within a week of Rangnick coming in and the coaches that he appointed, I think Pogba would have thought, nah, this club hasn't got its clue what it's doing. He's brought in a guy that isn't a manager, isn't a coach. The guy's brought in coaches who aren't good enough. Because again, Rangnick surrounded himself with coaches who hadn't, worked at a level that Pogba would demand. So,
but I think there's also a much simpler thing, which we all said because we followed Rangnick's career. Yeah. Rangnick plays a certain type of pressing, high-energy football. That is what made his reputation. If we can see that you can't play that with Cristiano Ronaldo up front at this stage of his career, you probably can't play with Bruno, then none of these players fit for what Rangnick made his reputation off of. I'm sure Paul, who actually genuinely loves football and knows a lot about football, I'm sure he could say it too. And he was saying, what is this? The Muppet Show? It's not going to work with it. Rangnick, I think Rangnick could have worked, but not by being Rangnick. He could have worked by being a pragmatist, being something else, which I think ultimately in the end is what he tried to do, and that didn't work out either. But
yeah, I mean, obviously Pogba wasn't fit for much of Rangnick's time, but whether he raced back for fitness, because he probably looked at what was going on and thinking, I'm going to race back to fitness, and for what? Because the team wasn't playing well, wasn't suited to the way he played. And Pogba just thought, well, I've got 6 months to go. Let's just stay safe, because in 6 months' time I can go as a free agent. Why rush back to play for this guy who is making the team even worse than Solskjaer made them?
How do we look back at Paul Pogba's time now at Manchester United, now that we know it's all said and done? Do we kind of empathize with the fact that he was not given that perfect environment that he's now since come out and actually said is something that he needs, which fair play? Or do you view it as just potential that was just never fulfilled, 50% him to blame and 50% the club to blame?
Yeah, I mean, I'm completely biased here anyway, because I love him. But I think for me, the responsibility is shared, really.
Yeah.
He could and should have done more for the talent that he has. Like Oggy said, I think the club didn't help either by being a circus for most of those 6 years. And when it wasn't so much of a circus, there was a Europa League at the end. His third season, by the way, with 13 goals and 9 assists only in the Premier League for a defensive infielder. They are decent numbers.
It's not bad.
And so I think it should and could have been much better. But I think a lot of people in this country especially will remember him as a flop, which I think is a bit harsh.
Harsh.
Totally agree with that assessment. You know, he did have his good moments, his productive moments as well. The other thing I would throw in there is the injuries, because I think they came at the wrong time. And
It's a bit unlucky, mainly.
I think there's an element to that too. I mean, if you need to make a hierarchy of why it went wrong, and there's no question that it went wrong, because when you pay this much money, plus all the commissions that they paid, and he leaves for nothing at age 30, then something's obviously gone wrong. I would put poor decisions from United at the very top as the main reason, followed by Pogba could have done more, followed by injuries.
I think United and Pogba let each other down, actually. I think United could have done more for him, brought more players in, better coaches, and invested in the whole football side of it more to help him. But then equally, he could have done more. He could have really seized the initiative and used his personality to be a leader. I know he wasn't the captain, but he could have become the captain. He could have been the leader by...
But they almost use his personality against him.
No, the personality as a footballer within the dressing room, within the squad, because, I mean, Jules might back me up on this, but he left United as a popular guy within the club.
Yeah.
People at the club, staff, players loved him.
Yeah.
And again, this perception outside the club that he was a troublemaker is just not true. He's not a divisive figure within the football environment. It's just what is perceived to be outside of it. And yes, he probably did talk too much and did some silly things like dye his hair blue on the day of the Manchester derby, light blue, and pose pictures, you know, in Dubai, in Miami when he was on rehab, which it didn't look the best optics. It's just the timing, that sort of thing. But ultimately, yeah, the club let him down. He let the club down. But I think more fault lies with the club, because over 6 years they failed to deliver what they should have.
Well, ultimately, the big question is what's next, even though we do feel like his heartstrings will take him back to Turin, because he's had such a great time there. He was loved there. He kind of got the environment that he talks about so much. But the question is, how much more can he still offer? As Jules says, he's going to be 30 years old. He's coming off of a torrid time where, again, with injuries, and then when he didn't have injuries, he didn't exactly help himself. We're kind of still banking on the Paul Pogba that we saw from his last time in Turin, but how many years have passed since then? So what more can you think he offer, and what does the future look like?
So assuming he does go to Juventus, I think, you know, as you past 30, you're going to lose in terms of athleticism, but the technical ability, the vision, the intelligence is still there. I think Max Allegri worked with him before. I think he's very good at pushing the right buttons with Pogba. There's wonderful videos. Allegri, hyper competitive. There's all these videos of him and Pogba challenging each other in like sort of football challenges and basketball challenges and stuff like that. And he really has a real fondness for him. So I think in some ways that's the right environment, but the pressure is going to be extremely high because, you know, 2 consecutive poor seasons for Juventus. They'll be looking to him to take them back up. The style of play has changed as well. He's got a good midfield, but certainly not on the level of when he was playing with Marquisio and Pirlo and Vidal. So he will need to be a leader on that team. He will need to be what, you know, maybe he wasn't able to be at Manchester United.
Jules, what do you think? Your boy can still
I
be up
think
there?
He can do it, yeah. I think he can do it. I think I'm a bit worried about the injuries because he's had so many summers where he played, you know, Euros to the final, World Cup to the final. The last Euros not so much, but it's heavy on any player. And plus this Winter World Cup, I think it might be a bit strange for a player who's been injury prone for the last 2.5 years, really. So, but I think the environment at Juve will help him. I think Max Allegri will help him. That he was such a big part of his development as a youngster when he joined the club. The stick and the carrot that Gab mentioned was very much there, and it worked. Now Paul is different, and I guess Allegri is different, but they will have that relationship again. And I think for all the moves he could have got once he decided to leave, for me, even if what you said in Spanish, like, I guess, fits with the Juve and Paul Pogba.
It's like going back to an ex. Boo.
Yeah, United, I still think that it's probably the best move and the best club that he could have got.
You think, is it Le Havre next?
Imagine. I'm sure I would have loved him in
X.
Paris and back in France in Ligue 1, in Ligue 2.
Eventually, do you think?
Eventually, maybe.
Eventually,
I don't
do
know.
you
I think
think?
he might go to MLS after
Oh.
Juve because this is a country that he loves dearly. And for him, going to MLS at some point is certainly something that would appeal to him.
A little bit more swagger in MLS.
Exactly.
I think, let's be honest, he's left the 6th best team in England for the 4th best team in Italy. So, but that shows you where he should be going to Real Madrid or Barcelona or Bayern Munich. This is the Pogba brand that we see. So his star has fallen a little bit. So Gab's selling of the move to Juve sounds like just what he was asked to do at Man United, lead and rebuild the club, which we've shown he's failed at that. I would have loved to see him stay in the Premier League, someone like Chelsea or Tottenham or even Arsenal, just to show he can do it in the Premier League, to show Man United that you had this great talent and you failed to get the best out of it. Do you not think he would have thrived in the Premier League at the right club?
Anywhere else?
I think he has everything for English football.
So, and I think he still has a point to prove, but obviously if he goes to Juve, he's not going to be able to do that. But it's just such an untold story of Pogba in the Premier League. He could have been so much better, but wrong club, wrong time.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.